like to introduce Jenny and Lauren, and they're going to be looking at visual dysfunction and brain injury in the work rehab context, and it's following a course that they went on with Sarah Maker. Be right?
Okay, so welcome everyone. Lauren and I are doing a presentation today on visual dysfunction and brain injury with work rehab specifically. So we got this book which is full of great information and articles and things. So this will be in the Christchurch office, and if any of the other offices want to borrow it, then we can send it out to them.
We've actually got 2 copies.
We have, yeah. So we can send that out. Alrighty. So we thought we'd start with some thought-provoking stats, because when we were actually told some of these, we were quite amazed as well, particularly when you work with people with traumatic brain injuries on a regular basis, if you're one of those people. So in a recent study, which looked at participants were people with CBA and TBI, 90% of all of those participants experienced some form of oculomotor dysfunction, so that's some form of visual dysfunction. 80 to 85% of our perception, learning, cognition and activities are actually mediated through our vision. And 80% of the brain is involved in some form of visual processing. So you can actually if that much of our brain is involved, then when you're in a car accident or whatever, you knock the head, have a fall in rugby, it kind of makes sense that there's a lot of those processes and a lot of pathways that affect our vision. It kind of makes sense that actually we would probably experience some form of visual dysfunction. Alrighty, so the next thing we've got to do is a little puzzle. So it's a word puzzle, and basically you've just got the some parts of the eye, and you just have to match it up with the function. So it's just to see where kind of everyone's at. So we'll grab that. If you could get into just pairs.
So it's the one that has eye parts puzzle on it.
I hope we do it when I have.
Just keep the other sheet.
Fun task.
So we'll just give you a couple of, okay, so 3 minutes depending on how.
So what should I puzzle? This one? Is it this one?
Yeah, it's one that
Can I? I zoom on you guys.
Oh, you're going to zoom in on.
Don't say your name.
Performance pressure.
So don't panic if you don't know the answers.
Process of elimination, like
Yeah.
relevant.
This is just to see where your knowledge is at.
Okay.
So the words involved, you're matching with the description.
With the pictures.
No, not pictures.
pictures.
That's the next one. We've seen the word one.
Right.
You'll need that
Right.
later.
Okay.
What have we got here? Lens,
Okay, so that'll go on one side somewhere.
optic nerve, iris, cornea, retinal photo.
Okay, this one goes here.
Oh, this one definitely, they both have photo
This is
in
the
it.
part and this is the...
And I think iris, that changes shape to allow
It does.
rods and cones located in iris.
Allows refraction of incoming light.
Shapes to allow accommodation
Is that one?
iris
Retinal brain brain
allows reflection.
Would that be attention?
Optic nerve,
Yeah, that's right.
cornea,
Optic nerve.
through the pupil, retina photoreception.
Or is
It would
that
be for image formation, although I could be wrong here. Optical nerve to projection of light. Yes, that's right. Cornea.
Or is that one this one? This one.
I'm not sure. The occipital lobe, the brain. I feel like that one is that one.
Yeah.
No, I think it's what parts of the eye.
You guys
The optic nerve would be this part because it's the nerve, isn't it?
Oh no, we're just lining them up. Yeah, no, we haven't done it yet. We're just lining them up. Should we put the camera on you guys?
Yeah, just line it up. We have a problem with
How's everyone going?
Iris, the lens,
Image information, sensory information for the brain.
with an arrow correction.
I think we should just
I guess so, because that's
cut to the
actually.
chase and say we got some wrong.
We don't say
How
we
you
got
guys
the whole
going?
wrong.
You totally expert in this area.
Not really. I recognise the names though.
Yes, we do.
So we're making it better or
I
worse?
know the optic nerve is really quite important.
I'm going to say you've got that one right.
Oh, that one's right. Right.
I've only guessed at one, that's that one.
So then maybe that, the way you did have it.
Which one? Optic nerve is that one there that's
There's
getting.
no couple wrong actually.
I'll just take it for
But don't worry, we're going through the end. There's no.
Yes, I'm giving you one answer that's correct.
Hold on, we're changing. We're calling that the optic nerve.
I was wondering why you would want to do it. You have
Which one would you like to
names
say?
or something else.
No, hold on, come back.
Come back.
It's obviously got to be a couple, because that's going to get one wrong.
She giving you a clue?
Yeah, she said we got two wrong. So there's something mixed up. Or maybe the optics all does look good.
Yeah, that way. No, it does look good.
It is upside down though, isn't it?
Yeah, and I did get feedback from the regions when I did it, when we had little activities for my session, that it would have been better just to push stop, because it was.
I was thinking I could put it on here so they could look at.
Right. Yeah, we can do that as well.
Yeah, through the pupil. Yeah.
How's everyone going? We almost done.
Is it going to
Yeah, we'll take it. Oh, should we get them to Yeah, we'll get them to out first. Yeah. Alrighty, so should we have a check? So what did we get for cornea? Yes, well done.
That's
Okay,
refraction.
pardon?
Was that up refraction?
Yeah, fraction of incoming light. Yep. Iris, what did we get for that one? Yeah. Through the pupil. Yeah, perfect. Lens.
Change the shape to allow accommodation and focus on.
Brilliant. Alrighty. Retinal membrane. How about another group? Just say alright, doesn't matter, it's the same
Yeah, we've got
environment.
rods and cones located at retina.
Not quite. Good thinking, no. Anyone else got something to? How about Kate and Kylie? What did you guys have?
Put responsible for sharp central vision.
Close.
Image formation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maria.
Process of elimination.
Yeah.
Okay,
You guys are amazing.
the neurons. Who's got
What's that one?
photoreceptor neurons?
Responsible for sharp central vision. Same answer as last time.
Right.
Rods and cones?
Yay. Right, yeah, okay, you've got this one.
Yes.
Central phobia.
Responsible for sharp central vision.
You've got it, well done, you. Cool, and the last one is optic nerve, which is the big long one.
Oh.
Retinal photoreceptors transmit signal along a nerve to the thymus.
Yeah.
Reaching the occipital lobe to be interpreted by other parts of the brain or within the
Brilliant, good reading, well done. Okay, so that's the answers. I just thought that was quite a fun way to get people to start to think about what is actually the eye structure and what is in the eye. So, alrighty, so there's a picture of the eye part. So, in a number of ways, the human eye is much like a digital camera. Light focus is firstly by the cornea, the clear window of the eye, which acts like a camera lens. The iris of the eye functions like the diaphragm of the camera, so controlling the amount of light travelling to the back of the eye by automatically adjusting the aperture of the pupil. The eye's crystalline lens, located behind the pupil, further focuses light. Through a process called accommodation, the lens helps the eye automatically focus on near and approaching objects like an autofocus camera lens. Light focused by the cornea and crystalline lens and limited by the iris and pupil then reaches the retina, the light-sensitive inner lining of the back of the eye. The retina acts like an electronic image sensor of a digital camera, converting optical images into electrical signals,
The optic nerve then transmits these signals to the visual cortex, the part of the brain that controls our sense of sight.
So there's some common visual disorders which you might have heard about, and these people in this room, people even out, anybody that you might be working with might experience these to some degree. So these are some fancy names for them. So we've got presbyopia. So that's an age-related disorder where basically the lens starts to thicken, you lose that flexibility with the lens, and that often is, you'll see people having difficulty in close reading. So then we've got myopia. So that's, often you might hear of that being called short-sightedness. So difficulty with distance. So that's when your vision focus falls short of the back of the eye, and actually the eye itself is more oval shaped than normal. So hyperopia is long-sightedness. So that's difficulty with near vision, and that's when the eyeball itself is smaller than normal. And then you might hear of astigmatism, which is blurring of the vision. So that's difficulty with both near and far vision. So that's again the eye is oval shaped. So with those in mind, what we would like you to do is, so in your
Okay, yeah, somebody pulled out the picture thing first, so that's what we want you to use now.
Yeah. So we want you to look at those pictures and we want you to match those words and what you think, common things that people might do with those words. So.
Presbyopia. I heard that one, which is myopia. It's my issue.
So feel free to write on your sheet.
I can
That's
see
all
that
good.
now. But I cannot see that for the last. Is that your issue?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Me too. We get examples really.
So that's the myopia.
This is astigmatism, which is very close in.
All done?
Correct it.
Brilliant.
Yes, and then
So should we check?
Someone who's difficulty reading.
Has everyone done it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Alrighty. So I reckon this team has done an awesome job. So the top left one, what did we give that?
Sorry?
The top left one.
Leave it with the top slide.
Presbyopia.
Yeah, presbyopia.
Presbyopia. Any other takers?
myopia.
Yeah, so myopia is correct.
Yeah, myopia.
So it's short-sighted, isn't it?
Yeah.
Short-sighted. So people who difficulty with distance stuff, so they try and bring it in nice and close.
Yep. So top right. What's that one?
Presbyopia.
Yep, presbyopia.
Hyperopia, isn't it?
Presbyopia.
So when people difficulty with close reading, often like in text messages, and you see people going like this.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they to be able to see it
Usually up to
better.
the level.
Because if you have difficulty with near vision, of the compensatory sort of approach is like to push it further away, so that's why I thought I'd do that.
It's also an age-related thing too. You need longer arms. The older you get.
Inspector Gadget on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bottom left.
The other one.
Hyperopia.
Hyperopia. Good. And the last one must be.
Astigmatism.
Yeah. Awesome. Alrighty. So ocular motor versus ocular health. So ocular motor is the movement and function of the eye, and it's usually assessed by an optometrist, whereas ocular health is assessments carried out to screen for potential eye disease. So that's usually carried out by an ophthalmologist. So often the optometrist will refer to the ophthalmologist if they sense that there's some kind of eye disease.
I guess it's also important to know the difference, because someone with who has an eye disease, or if they're cleared of an eye disease, doesn't necessarily mean to say that there's nothing wrong with the functional side of it. So, which they don't look for. So it is important to get, even if like comes through on like reports and things that you might see that they've been to an ophthalmologist. Don't always assume that they haven't had what we're about to talk about assessed. So it's, yeah, so that's just, I guess, to know the difference and that what their specialties are. Yeah. So when we think about vision, there's actually there was a lot of information that we had to squeeze down into, from a day course down into a shorter presentation. So when we're looking at vision, these are the things that we're going to look at today. So we're thinking about visual acuity, we're thinking about visual efficiency, visual field, and visual processing. And all of these things to have good vision and to be functioning really well in the community and at work and at home and things, all of these things need to be pretty, working pretty well. So yeah, so we're going to break these down.
Okay, so visual acuity, I'm sure this eye chart here is pretty familiar to most of you who've had an eye test before. So visual acuity refers to the clarity and brightness of vision. It allows us to discriminate detail at a distance. Some disorders that can reduce acuity include, but are not limited to, cataracts, glaucoma, and macular degeneration.
Yeah. And so that's just a common eye test that we would use, or that you might have, if you've gone to an optometrist, and so basically the smallest that you line that you can clearly read, this determines how good your vision is. Yeah. So in order for visual efficiency, so in order to actually have efficient vision, we need the following. So we need to be able to accommodate, so that's about being able to shift your focus between your near and your far. So examples might be when you're looking at your computer screen versus talking to someone on the other side of the room in the office. So being able to actually accommodate between that and be able to see clearly at both distances. We need our eyes to be working, both of our eyes to be working together. So if one eye is might deviate towards the right or to the left, if they're not looking in the same direction or working well together, then that's when you come into problems as well. So ocular motility, so that's about the actual movement of the eye. So can you track, can you actually fixate on an object? So tracking and things, it's really important to be able to do that for likes of reading or even just maintaining concentration, particularly with us, like on computer screens, for example.
So this is a diagram of a normal visual field. So the visual field refers to the area in which the visual stimulus are registered when our eyes are focused on a single point. So that will be a sub-test in our little assessment that we'll do later on.
So with visual processing, who can tell me or tell us where they think vision's actually, what part of the brain vision is processed? Well done you. So it's, yeah, so it's right, so that's the occipital lobe. So basically the brain is a very complex organ, and so, but if you think about the stats that we talked about at the start with 80% of the brain being involved at some stage, I mean so if you have someone in a car accident, for example, they might knock their head forward, so they might actually damage the eye socket itself. Damage to the eye that can cause all sorts of problems with, blur of vision, also misalignments, all that sort of stuff. But then there might also be damage along some of those visual other pathways that actually get to the occipital lobe. So the occipital lobe is quite a long way from the other parts of the brain. So there's a lot of a number of pathways which could actually affect your vision. But also it's really important to remember that today we are only talking about vision just because that there could be other issues involved as well with people, particularly with TBIs. So yeah.
Okay, so visual disturbance following TBI. So disruption of visual efficiency skills was also referred to as accommodation, so that's what we've discussed before. So shifting focus between near and far objects. So when accommodation issues arise, this can result in blurred vision, eye strain, headaches, reading problems, fatigue, difficulty with close work, and changing between close and far distances. Binocular dysfunction refers to the misalignment of the eyes. So it's also known as strabismus, so that's when you have cross-eyed or squinting, lazy eye where the eye deviates, when both eyes are not working well together. So ocular motility, which we've also talked about before, was the movement of the eye. So deficits in ocular motility result in difficulty with fixation, which is important for concentration, saccades, so that allows us to shift focus between two objects. And so, for example, reading and pursuit, so if you're watching a game of tennis, for example. So people also have nystagmus as well, so that's involuntary eye movements, so it's a fast or slow flicker in the eye from side to side. So there's also a sub-test coming up where you could potentially see that.
So when we think about visual field loss, so this is a really nice diagram which looks at these particularly different ones and more common, whether you've had a CVA, so more stroke related, or a traumatic brain injury. So basically a visual field loss, so you've got your left and right visual fields in both your left and right eye. So depending on where on the optic nerve that the damage actually happens depends on what part of the visual field, whether it just be complete blindness in one eye or one half of the visual field. So we thought rather than go into all of them, we thought we'd go into just pick a couple and give some examples. So someone with hemianopsia, this is what they might see. So that's, as you can see, so left and right eye. And so damage to the right visual field on the left eye, that's what they might see if there was damage to the left visual field in the right eye, that's what they might see.
Can I say something? So I had a client with this exact issue,
Yeah.
and that was the left and the left, so the left to the right, the left to the left.
Yeah.
And so the doctor gave glasses
Yeah.
that covered up what he could see.
Yeah.
Then that's tricky, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
So that he would be able to use.
So what did you notice, Kylie? What were some of the things like that he did? Like, did you notice like any balance or?
Oh, he ran into things.
He ran into things. Yeah.
Bumped into things.
Yeah.
But he just didn't. While he was wearing the glasses, he just was non-compliant really with it because he felt so unsafe.
Yeah, it would be scary.
Like
So
when he
the
walked.
glasses covered up what he could see.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then he
I
couldn't
was-
see anything? Or
Pretty much.
and what are they trying to do? They're trying to make him so that he can
Make
see
the
into that field.
I think so.
It's kind of like when you tie them.
Yeah.
So retraining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
Okay.
No, obviously.
Because he's not compliant or because...
Well, in the end, he was compliant because he he was still bumping into things when he was and wasn't wearing the glasses. And in the end, he was compliant, but he didn't go anywhere, and it didn't get any better.
So who was treating him? Was it?
It was Dr. Marsh.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, so it was a GP.
No,
so
it
who
was
No.
TBI.
Oh, okay.
What's his name? He's a specialist at Burwood.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's serious.
And then Dr. Veal.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
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 So it's really interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Particularly when the majority of our, like that's where we take in most of our
Yeah.
information,
and stuff.
you know, from stimulus environments. Most of it's comes through our eyes.
Yeah.
So to have that taken away from you would be really hard.
And we were trying to get him to go to a work trial at the time, but it was just not working
No.
because he wasn't able to pay them.
Well, sometimes they don't know that they can't see,
Yeah.
because you
Or
don't
what
know.
they've seen, yeah.
You only
It might
see
be a
what you see.
compensatory approach with that guy.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. So this is another.
But that's what he had.
Okay. Brilliant.
That one there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I skipped ahead.
So this is the loss of visual field in the same eye, in the same side in both fields. So people that are away, that was the example that Kylie gave. So basically some issues that you might see or notice with people is that they do bump into things. They might have problems with some of their mobility and also difficulty moving around crowded areas because they may not necessarily see those people that are in that visual field. And people tend to, you'll see lots of head shifting, so they might do things like this so that they can actually see. So they start doing funny things with their heads.
Just a case of leaf neglect thing,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it? Strokes.
Yeah, Yeah.
It's common.
So look, these are just some. There's lots of them, which you can see from the from the previous diagram. But these are just some common ones you might see with particular TBIs. We just thought that it's more common for us to see people work with people with TBI. So yeah.
Okay, so functional vision is made up of two processes. So the focal process refers to our ability to perceive fine detail and patterns, whereas the ambient process is required to sense spatial orientation.
So some possible things, some possible symptoms that you might see with people, with your clients that might have had a TBI. So it might be blurred vision, they might have some hallucinations, they might see two or one thing, so double vision, spatial disorientation, headaches, and they might resolve sort of with some sleep, good night's sleep, but then they might increase during the day, and particularly if they're having to like concentrate or attend for really long periods of the day. So you might also see poor concentration, poor attention. They often fatigue really quickly. Also, some things you might notice, even in like your initial assessment, might be that they might blink quite slowly, or their poor ability to focus on near or far objects, or that they can't actually fixate on something. So they are some things that they might complain of, or you might notice.
Alrighty, so how does this relate to us and our clients? So we think it's a good idea when you get a TBI client to potentially do the visual impairment symptom questionnaire, which only takes a few minutes, and it's just got some questions, some general questions about visual impairment. So we've got some copies here. If you just want to
Should pause?
Doesn't look like the right.
No, it's just Marie's going like this.
So what?
It was over here somewhere. Maybe it was in here. Oh, here it is.
Cool.
So has anyone used one of these before?
So this is quite it's a really quick and easy one. It's just to identify, I guess the purpose of for what we're doing is that they might get to us and they may have actually never had an assessment before, but they might still be complaining of some of these problems, and sometimes, you know, when they've been in hospital or they've gone through all the rehab processes and things, and everyone's just working on all the balance and the stimulus system and just making sure they're generally okay, and getting their life back on track. Sometimes the eyes get missed, and it's not until when they actually go back to work that they start complaining of some of these things. So there's just a screening tool that you can just hand out to and just do with your client, just to highlight if there's any problems as well. So that's one thing to do.
Is the camera alright?
Yeah, it's just like it's flashing. I think it just needs some recharging, so but it's still flashing at me even though I'm plugged in.
Brilliant. Okay, so this will take this takes 1 or 2 minutes to do with your clients, and if you do identify some problems, then there's another tool that you can use. It's called the Matherville Occupational Neurological Visual Screening Tool. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
Now this tool takes a bit of time to do, so you may need to schedule another appointment with your client. I think Helen took us about 40 minutes.
Yeah, very cool.
And some of it's quite hard, so it's a good idea to practice it with a work colleague, especially the parts that you're not quite sure of before you do it. So that's what we're going to be doing today, is having a go at doing.
Oh, you mean the one in the black folder, not the sun?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this particular, so the screening tool we're going to have a go at, and we're going to set up some stations. So we thought maybe you want to pair up and we'll just move around the stations, and what me and Jenny will do is we're going to explain a couple of them first because they're a bit more challenging, and we thought we'd demonstrate how you would actually do them, and then you guys can have a go because we think that practicing it is probably more beneficial for your guys learning, and it's not quite so scary when you see that big black folder when you've already had a go at it. So yeah.
Yeah, and for the other, sorry, Kat?
What was that black?
It's called the
Neurological Visual Screening Tool. Yeah. So I think the other officers in the region maybe don't have this kit, but we, the only thing really in it that's different would be the bot wand, but we're just going to do that assessment with a pen.
Yeah,
So,
it's easier with a pen.
So we can email out this assessment to other officers so that everybody can potentially use it. Alrighty.
So, in your kit, so this is your bot wand.
So post active.
So,
Assuming that camera
this thing
point
here.
does work, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to try that one?
Yeah.
It's maybe it's something like
So we have some
I
lights.
two people in my house.
Should we have all ones?
If you can just pause for a second.
Is that alright? Yeah, no, is it distracting?
You're not really that